had another question for you. Um, there is a terminology used for every special need and the right terminology. So what is the right terminology for somebody with hearing impairment? What if I would just walk into your house today and say, hello, Prisha, and then you would say, oh, you know, has hearing impairment. And I would say, oh, she's deaf and dumb. What would you say about that? Because I've heard this from many people, this term of deaf and dumb. What would you say to them, and what is the right way to address a child with hearing impairment and hearing loss?
Now, this is a very controversial one because a lot of communities over the world, they think that's, oh, don't call them dumb. Don't call them deaf. Don't call them hearing impaired. There's speech impairment. There's hearing impairment. Now, for me, deaf is deaf. According to me, it's deaf is deaf and hearing impairment. So I use, like, whenever somebody answers, yes, she's deaf, or I would also use hearing impairment because her hearing is impaired. She's not speech impaired because she has been trained through auditory verbal therapy and she's completely vocal. She can give you a speech, she sings, she talks all day long. So that is, sorted out. Now, when they use something like deaf and dumb, what does dumb mean? Dumb, normally in normal circumstances, oh, she's so dumb, means she has no brains, right? But it's not, this is so derogatory, for these children, because it's not that they are dumb. I would say it's deaf and mute because they can't speak, because they haven't been given speech therapy. So it's so the moment you give them speech therapy, they can speak, and provided you give it that enough support to make sure that they are speaking, verbalizing everything, and they will speak. Now, when you say dumb, means mentally or intellectually they are not there. Now, that is very wrong. Just because they haven't got speech therapy, they don't know how to speak, or they haven't got the support system that it was required, they haven't developed intellectually in what we are looking at. In the he should have been a doctor, so he's intelligent. Engineer, he's intelligent. No, they are equally intelligent. It's just that they don't have the vocabulary to go with it. Now, I always give an example, like I am much into cooking, right? So I am actually dumb when it comes to a medical field, right? Because I don't have the enough vocabulary to talk in medical terms. So I could be termed dumb. So it's just the moment a deaf person is given, we can tap on their intelligence. So I would rather, please do not call them dumb, because it really pulls them down. Instead, call them mute, deaf and mute, in case they can't speak. But
or non-verbal.
Non-verbal. And in today's time, when we have so much of technology, I feel that every deaf child can actually speak through proper hearing aids, good speech therapy in auditory verbal therapy, which means hearing, auditory, verbal therapy. So which you and I are actually using. We grew up with auditory verbal therapy, all of us, but it's with these deaf children, we have to work differently, with more concentration, with the strategies. So every deaf person in today's world can talk. So we just have to make this available to the deaf community.
Wow, I did not know this. So what would you say about sign language? You had mentioned that you didn't take it up with Prisha because not everyone knows sign language and you wanted her to feel included. What about those who can't afford the hearing aid, and they can't afford the cochlear implant, which is the next level? They can't even afford the basic hearing aid, supposing. So they would use sign language. So what do you think would be the benefits of sign language then? The benefits and the pros and cons. Yeah.
See, the hearing aids today are, of course, they are, really, really good quality hearing aids and cochlear implants. And there are also these, basic analog pocket models available, so which most of the community can afford. Now, if you're talking about the really poorest of poor who can't afford it, that is different. Then they figure out they can't even do speech therapy, nor are they in an environment where they are probably not going to school as well. And that is completely different. But today we have hearing aids from really cheap hearing aids with which you can at least give some kind of hearing to the deaf child.
Right.
What is required is that they should have speech therapy, because everything has to be vocalized and verbalized and make them aware. The brain has to be made aware of to be able to make them speak. It's a very, very intense program. Now, what about sign language? I'm very against sign language, only because for me, there are a lot of people who are using sign language even today, though they have the latest technology and access to hearing aids, supplies plus the speech therapy. They still choose to do sign language because it suits them. Now, for me, it was always very clear that I did not want her to live in that bubble. Now, there are so many different kinds of sign languages: British Sign Language, Indian Sign Language, American Sign Language, Bengali Sign Language, Marathi Sign Language. Now they are trying to bring one Indian Sign Language. But can you imagine that language has to be first learned by the parent? Then you will give it, you have to be really good at it. Because why do we always say use mother tongue? Because your mother tongue comes from your birth, right? So you're talking so much that the child will pick up that mother tongue very quickly. And because you're fluent in it, these children also pick up that particular language. So even if you have a Chinese child living with a Bengali family, the child will pick up Bengali because they are talking in Bengali.
Yeah.
So you can be born anywhere, but the language you are exposed to, you will pick up that. Now, with children who have, who are exposed to sign language, the parent has to be using that as well. Now, if I use Indian Sign Language, can I go to US or Japan or some other place? So we were looking at a language that was that we are using in everyday life. My child has people around who understand that language. I don't want to be the interpreter. Supposing I die tomorrow? Then if she's using that, Indian Sign Language or whichever Bengali sign or Marathi Sign Language, I was in Pune. So if she had picked up Marathi Sign Language, she won't be able to move out. How many people on the streets you see in your entire lifetime, Neeta? I have seen only 4 or 5 people who are signing on the streets. Now, if my child goes out and is trying to sign, they wouldn't understand her.
Yeah.
She would require an interpreter. She can't travel. Now, I wanted to make her a global citizen. So I made sure that she picks up that. Now, it was a very big thing. Which language she should pick up. So when I'm talking to other parents, no, hum to ghar mein Tamil bolte hain ya phir Bengali bolte hain. I said that is true, but then you have to make sure that you are happy in that particular situation where the child is going to live only in Bengal or only in Marathi, Maharashtra. So that is so fine. But for me, I was very clear that my child should be a global citizen. I didn't want her to be isolated. So we chose English as the primary language, which all of us spoke. We didn't have to work on it. We had to just change the way we were talking. So she picked up. Now, then she could go out and talk to other aunties. Or, sabji wala also understands a little bit. Goes to the grocery. Half the things are written in English. Then we moved abroad. In 2010, we moved to Germany. At the school, they all talk in English. Of course, we had to adapt to the accents and, various ways of talking. And then we are not native speakers. Yeah. So, but the challenge window was very short compared to, imagine me having, English sign language, Indian sign language, and then moving to Europe. Yeah. And then I had to be sitting in the classroom trying to interpret for her. So what happens is not isolating the child. So this is one of the reasons I was very sure no sign language. And that's the reason I asked every time I was looking for somebody who's talking. I didn't care which language. I just wanted somebody talking. Some deaf child who's talking. And that was it. And that really helped us. So I'm hoping that, a lot of children, even now when I'm, online on various groups, they use cochlear implant and they say that, oh, my child, we are trying to do sign language. I can't understand it because why should you first you have to learn the sign language, get really good at it, then communicate, then somebody has to also, your uncle, your grandma,
they all should know.
Everybody should know. Otherwise you're isolating, or I have to be present all the time. So instead you just work harder, find out ways how you can support the child through speech and language. And the inclusion is much more with a spoken language.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Good to know this. I didn't know so much about it. But wouldn't it be also amazing to teach all kids sign language in school? Like if there's a subject to, for inclusion, you can choose, okay? You can choose you learn sign language, or you can choose to Braille, or you can choose, different things. If everyone knows, how to support someone.
I love this question, because you tell me now today, given a choice, you have a son, given a choice of language learning. You want to learn Spanish, you want to learn German, you want to learn French, you want to learn Braille, you want to learn sign language.
I would want him to learn sign language or Braille.
Not about you.
To him.
Yeah. So when I ask him, see, you have a different mind frame, because you have seen the world how it is, and you're trying to help other people. So I wouldn't mind that if I had to learn Braille or something to help somebody. Yeah. But normally, if you ask any child, they will all say, okay, I want to learn Spanish. Yeah, if I go to US, this will be helpful. I learned French. I'm planning to study German in Germany, so let me learn German. Oh, I have a job. So, the thing is, it's very difficult for everyone to, really be passionate about it. So unless you are in that situation where you have somebody who's affected by that particular thing, only then will you learn that. It's like a forced thing, and then you have to practice it. Even if you're learning a new language, for me, I can understand German quite a lot, but vocal is something else. When you're trying to talk a conversation, you have to practice a lot. Only then can you get good at it. Right. Eventually, we all slip into our, mother tongue or the language we're most comfortable in. So Braille and Bollywood has really made it very rosy. I remember we saw Black, and Alka ma'am was so upset about it. She said they've glorified this whole sign language and everything. They don't realize, they make this struggle of special needs parent very, very, romantic and very small. They don't realize that it's a daily moment, every minute struggle that they are facing. So let's see the big picture. Let's see the whole big picture. So this is one of the reasons I'm not very much, excited about when somebody even told me, why don't you help us talk about sign language, promote sign language on your. I said, no, I because I don't believe in it. Prisha doesn't sign. Now they ask, oh, you should have asked that is another question I'll get asked. Oh, why don't you ask your daughter, maybe she wants to learn sign language, and, she'll be in the deaf community, and then probably she'll get into this, talking in sign language. So one day I sat her down and I asked her, Prisha, what do you think about sign language? And I exposed her very early. When she was 4, I took her to a deaf school where they were using sign language. And she came back. She said, no, I'm happy. Then I love my voice. Then I saw her some German people who were using sign language. And she asked me, because she'd forgotten. She was 7 then, and she said, what are they doing? I explained again about sign language, and she said, no, Mama, you can be very firm with me, and I won't say anything, but please make sure that I love my voice. I want to hear, I want to talk to you, Mama. I don't want to be, doing sign language. So, if I ask her even today, the other day I sat down and I asked her, if you were in a situation like this, she said, no, Mama, I feel so confident. I can speak.
But what about kids who can't speak at all? Like, what about them?
See, again, why they can't speak. First, you have to diagnose why they can't speak.
What if it's a medical issue? There are medical issues.
So there are medical issues, then yes. If there is something because of which you can't just do it, Alka ma'am never told us that you can't. But just because you don't want to work hard, you don't want to put hearing aids and talk, then it's very stupid. But otherwise, if there is, you have, the function of the mouth, you have, paralysis and something, physically something is so wrong that you can't use your, system, then it's different. But other than that, if all the system is moving, everything is happening, just because the parent doesn't want to work on it, that is wrong.
So what about the sound? Like the child makes sounds but doesn't speak verbally. You feel that child can speak? If they
it depends on, again, see, when supposing this is not working for some reason, they normally make sounds from the throat. That is the only way of communicating. But with a hearing impaired child, also it happens, they start using more of this part. Tisha would do, she would always lie down and do, it was so cute. But later on we realized, because she's not hearing, the moment she started to hear with the hearing aid, she was trying to babble. And then you encourage babbling, you encourage speech, you encourage, the child to talk, listen. Oh, Prisha, did you hear that? I hear, ooh, ooh. Did you hear? You didn't hear? Again, listen. Ooh, that's a koel. I heard it. Did you hear? So we did a lot of exercises, sitting out in the balcony. What can I hear? Oh, somebody's walking. Something fell. Let's go and look where it is. I would drop the most important thing that I'm doing, just walk with her to the source of sound. Let her see what made that sound, talk about it. And for the next 5 days, I would talk. Now, this is the kind of commitment you're looking at. And again, something broke. Remember that day? Something broke. We were sitting there playing on the computer, and then something broke. We went into the kitchen. So I, may paint that whole picture again in her brain. Take her again to the new place. This last time the glass was broken. This time the plate is broken. Who broke it? Naughty boy, daddy broke it. Last time who broke it? Bishop broke it. So, this is the kind of, connection and conversation we are talking about.
Right.
Everything has to be expanded. Now we have to be careful. What do you think? Why did it fall and break? Oh, because there was soap in it. Next time, don't see it. When you put soap, it's slippery. We have to be very careful. So, are the parents ready for this kind of commitment? So when I have these mothers talking about, I said, are you ready for this? Yes, the child is not making sounds or he's making sound. Oh, he's just doing this. I said, yeah, because he doesn't have any other sound. He knows by making this sound, he'll get your attention. But is he really ready to talk, really ready to be, conversing with you? For that, you have to make that entire setup like that. So it's very, very, language development is one of the most difficult and most complex things, in life. Because it affects you in so many ways. In so many ways, it helps you with your intelligence, with, future options that you're going to do, your social skills, your inclusion. I have had a family, a 90-year-old person, she had a stroke. And they asked me, can you come and see her? And I said, I've never worked with the, old people. But when I went and she was refusing to talk to her family, and she would just make the sound or something like that she would make. And they said, oh, she only makes this and she moves her left hand, one finger. But when I sat down with her, I spent 4 hours talking to this couple who were both on the bed, telling them, I understand, auntie, this has happened, but remember you're old. There were a lot of conversations I had. And can you imagine, she understood everything. She cried. She held my hand at the end of the session. She held her husband's hand. She turned the whole body. So sometimes we don't realize the power of our words. If we are ready to spend that time talking to our children or the person who needs that, you will see that you can move mountains. Our way of talking can move mountains. It's just that we have to spend that time with the children or the person who needs that kind of conversation. You will see. I also know that there are a lot of old men or women, old couples, old people who lose their hearing. They have no access to sound and they get isolated. This is something I really want to bring you across. They're depressed. They want to die and they don't, because they're so lonely and miserable. But the moment they put on hearing aids and then people include them, bring them together, they just want to be included again, because sound is our first step towards the world. The moment you hear, so it's very important that sounds, language development, inclusion, conversations are happening in every person's life.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much. There was so much new information for me. That was really good. I hope the audience enjoys this interview as much. Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Totally. Thank you for doing this for the community. I think we all need it. More conversations opening up, talking about various disabilities and, sending it out to the world. I think we really need it.
Yes. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.